Formed. Two top-flight performers living up to long-established reputations as outstanding drawing cards. Congratulations in which all movie lovers and baseball fans join.
Joe DiMaggio was an iconic hitter of the ball whose sight will send chills down his opponents. He set up records that are still untouched by any other players. But behind his stellar career, he had a secret network with the Mafia and secret dealings. Today, we will discover what he was hiding all those years of his career. Joe DiMaggio was born on November 25, 1914, in California. He was the eighth child born in the house of Italian immigrants Giuseppe and Rosalia DiMaggio. His father was a fisherman like many generations had been, but his son had no interest in joining the family business. Destiny had bigger things planned for him. Little did he know, he would be the personification of the American dream that everyone wishes in their life. He used to sneak with his brother Vince into the baseball field, and that is where he found out his strengths. He dropped out of school to dedicate his life to his dream. DiMaggio made his debut in 1936 for the Yankees. They had not won the World Series since 1932. He would take them to winning 4 consecutive World Series. He set a franchise record in 1936 by hitting 29 runs that stood there for almost 80 years. He had a batting average of .325, which many players still dream of having. He scored 361 home runs, setting a record of 56 games, hitting streak that still stands after being set by him in 1941. He played 13 seasons with the New York Yankees during his career and won 9 World Series championships with them. He also won 3 MVP awards over the course of his career. He was an exceptional player that today's kids must look up to, but he had this secret life where he was linked with the Mafia that no one knew about. Today, we will take the curtains of those secret connections he had built. We have more stories like this coming up. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss out when we uncover your favorite player, and let's start with the mysterious life of Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio was the superstar of his time. Everyone wanted a piece of his money, especially the Mafia. He knew mobster Frank Costello very well. He was able to set up a trust fund at the Bowery Bank with Frank, where they would keep all of their money. This lets him secure money for his future. That was the reason he was able to walk away from his $100,000 salary from the New York Yankees. He also had co-ownership of different nightclubs with Frank Costello. Every time he would walk into any prominent New York nightclubs, like El Morocco, Stork Club, or the Copa, he would deposit $200 to the account. Costello loved Joe, and that's why he was putting money in the brewery to honor him for his retirement. Joe also did many commercials for the brewery as their spokesperson. When people asked him about his money in the brewery, he had said he was confident that his money was in the safe hands. Costello was not the only Mafia boss he was involved with. Being with Costello, he was exposed to a broader network of Mafia where he could make more connections. DiMaggio was also found to have deep bonds with the mob of New Jersey Abner, Longy Zwillman, and Richie the Boot Boyardo. Longy had so much belief in Joe that he had kept 3 boxes full of cash in Joe's house for housekeeping. But Longy was later found dead, so Joe got to keep all of that money. Mob knew that Joe would keep his mouth shut if the FBI asked him about money. This made the mob like him even more. This paid for Maggio as he was able to use all of that money later for himself. These ties with the Mafia had some downsides to it as well. He had to hide everything. When his house crashed in the 1989 earthquake, he was seen holding a huge garbage bag. People assumed it was his valuable items of baseball, but little did they know those were filled with $600,000 cash that he had saved. That's not the only thing that hurt his fame. One of the biggest mistakes of his life was trying to catch his wife cheating. Marilyn Monroe was a famous actress who had decided to marry Joe and completely trusted him. But Joe had thought differently about her. Joe was sitting with his friend Frank Sinatra, who was a famous singer. They had devised a plan to catch her cheating, but they failed miserably. Both of them were eating dinner when they got word from a private investigator that Monroe was seen with another man at an apartment. When they went out to check it, Monroe was nowhere to be found. The woman was Florence Kotz. She ended up suing them and was awarded $7,500 from in settlement. This incident made it public 2 years later, hurt his reputation, and also weakened his bond with his friend Frank. But aside from this mysterious life that he had kept secret, he was an exceptional baseball player. Joe started training for baseball in early his life with his brother. He hated his family business of fishing and didn't want anything like that. That resulted in fights between him and his father. At age 10, he started playing baseball in the playground near his home while also studying. But he dropped out of school to work on his baseball career. In his full rookie year of 1933, he had a hitting record in 61 consecutive games in PCL. This record still stands as the second longest streak. But in 1934, he got a career-ending injury. But Franceschi knew about his potential, so they gave the best treatment there was. DiMaggio battled his very best with a .398 batting average in 154 runs, including 34 home runs. Thus, his club won the PCL title, and it made him the most valuable player in the league. He made his debut in the Major League on May 3, 1936, for the New York Yankees. They were suffering from losses in the World Tour Series. He would take them to win 9 World Series championships throughout his career. 1936 was one of the best years in his career. He hit 29 home runs, setting a franchise record, and it took him only 138 games to accomplish this feat. This was just the start. There were many more achievements to come. Next year, he hit 46 home runs and scored 151 runs. He had scored in 43 of 44 games from June 1937 to August 1937. He had an exceptional season but was voted second for the MVP title in a close race. In 1939, he was named Yankee Clipper, as he had recorded 53 RBI that year, tying the record for Hack Wilson. That year, he won 4th consecutive World Championship for his franchise. He was named MVP Player of the Year and also won his first batting title. His opponents were also fearful of his fielding abilities as well. He covered so much ground that the only way to get a hit was to hit where Joe was not standing. In 1949, he signed a $100,000 contract and became the first player to have that much earnings. He was ranked the second best center fielder in his time. His 1951 season was coupled with many injuries, and he couldn't keep his form and decided to retire at the age of 37. His achievement of hitting in 56 games consecutively in 1941 still stands to this day, and no one has ever come close yet. His personal life had its ups and downs, but he tackled all of them with his great character. He met Dorothy Arnold in 1939, who was an amazing actress in Manhattan. They decided to get engaged 2 years later, and that same year they married. Their marriage was so huge that 20,000 well-wishers jammed the streets for it. They had a son in 1941, but their marriage didn't last long, and they divorced in 1944. But he would soon meet Marilyn Monroe on a blind date, and they decided to marry in 1954. This was the perfect couple for everyone. Their marriage seemed happy from the outside, but inside it was starting to break. They had trust issues between them, and that resulted in a divorce. Their marriage only lasted 9 months. Joe never married again. He was in love with Marilyn and decided to remarry her, but she was found dead due to a tragic incident. In his later life, he took on advertising as a career and also worked for TV. But he had lung cancer. He eventually got treatment for it. After that, he stayed at his home in Florida and died on March 8, 1999 at age 84. We have more stories like Joe DiMaggio in the works. We are planning to release them soon. Make sure to subscribe to find out what your favorite was doing all those years. In the meantime, let me know what other player you would like me to cover in the next videos.